You're listening to the Art Said podcast, episode number 2, a conversation with Purple Haze, hip hop culture and rap lyric writing. Welcome to the Art Said podcast, conversations through the perspective of the arts and education, hosted by educators and artists Shauna Longo and Edric DeBose. All right, welcome back, everybody. We are so excited today to have the amazing Purple with us. She is just a phenomenal arts educator, arts integration specialist, and all-around person. I've done a bunch of we've intersected many times over the years in many different ways. And so Edric and I are always both so excited to meet up with her every July in Princeton at the Arts Integration Leadership Institute that happens here in New Jersey. So I'm going to kick it back to Purple, and she can tell you a little bit more about who she is, and I'm sure she won't want to brag, but she's amazing. So just listen.
Thank you so much, both of you. It's always great to continue to see colleagues throughout our path as we grow and evolve and live. So yes, my given name is Shakia Shaniqua Norris. I'm lyrically known as Purple Haze, and I love to embrace and celebrate the fact that I am a big booty girl from the Bronx, New York, living in Newark, New Jersey. And it is my journey that had me embrace the significance and affirming that both for my inner child and other young people. And that's really where my journey began as a young child. Being born in 1979 in the Bronx just put me in proximity to hip hop being all in my and over in my world. And so hip hop is the number one culture I identify with and has been a great teacher. It is a combination of African, South American, Caribbean, Asian, and American kind of like cultural sacred teachings. A lot of origin and ancestral and indigenous work really, I say, like funneled in to be a new form of expression. And that's how I've grown in hip hop or grown up as me. So I love to say the adventure of being me was from being a more quiet young person or extremely painfully shy young person, and learned a lot about what silences us, and ways that we communicate. And so my form of communicating and being in the world was through breakdancing and being invited into the cipher. The cipher is a space of wisdom. As one of my teachers, Tony Blackman, really taught me the wisdom of the cipher. And so coming into a circle, gathering, communal, localized experience to get more into my body and out of my mind and out of this world is what was happening through the break or the break dance. And it's a breakthrough experience as a very young child, so like 5 and 7 years old, and being seen by elders and invited in and being taught right there to receive the energy of all of those participating. I mean, those who are watching are really forming that empowering moment of self actualization. So through the breakdance practice and being a young child at that time, learning to create with color and different fonts and, and ancient text, which we call graffiti. So instead of writing on the wall, for me, it was more writing on my notebook and my book bags and my clothing, which was still a form of communicating before I brought my vocals into it. And it was really just seeing artists like MC Light, Queen Latifah, Roxanne Shante earlier on being girls that looked like me and may have been from a similar place. But when I saw them, I also heard them. And it must have jarred something within me to want to hear myself. And so that is how I got into rapping, really just copying their lyrics and my brother's lyrics and hearing my voice and feeling myself in a different way. And that's how I got into hip hop, and that's how I got into teaching. So my first love was to be a hip hop MC. And, at that time, I believed the adults around me that said, find something to fall back on. And that fallback was my other love, which was basketball. And I love team sports and I love the dynamics. And so, being a high school basketball player was really talented and skillful. I went to Johnson C. Smith University and I majored in health education. And so, as much as I love arts education, I had no idea the field existed. And it was my foundation in health education, initially school health, and then I pivoted to community health. But it gave me the teachings through psychology, education, and health. And so the two worlds coming together, hip hop and health education, really is what lend itself to my practices as a teaching artist once I was invited to teach hip hop lyricism at the Newark Public School Student Center.
So let me ask a question. Let me go backwards just a little bit. So when you talk about being invited into the cipher, invited into the culture, invited into a community, it seems like there are two things. One is this invitation to community, and the other seems to be this invitation to for self-expression and acceptance. Like, so I'm curious, when you were a kid, which of those two things? I'm sure it was both, but which kind of stands out to you more? I mean, or can you talk about both? I don't know.
Yeah, I think the way I would say is they're happening in tandem because um, from the collective ideology, which is a rooted in Afrocentric teachings and ways of life and values, the collective is a group of individuals bringing what they have to create for the whole. So you're part of,
Mm.
um, a piece of
Hmm.
the at large, and so it's collective versus individualism in a sense.
Okay.
But the individual is not bigger than the collective, is what those spaces did. So I have to be me
Right.
to bring what I can bring. And I'm invited and welcome to be that. And so when I'm expressing myself, though it's from myself, little s, truthfully, it's what I've come to understand is it's big self, big S rather. It's also the expression of the collective or an expression through me, um, to represent. And it's a word in hip hop we say, but it's, I'm also a consciousness studies major. So
Okay.
there's this piece of it where it's never about the individual, yet we need the individuals.
So
So
negotiating
it's both. So my expression is the expression of the people.
those two things between realizing the need for self-expression, how important that is to you, understanding certain things about the collective. Um, what guidance did you really lean on? You mentioned a teacher earlier, but how does that teacher take that uh, intent from this, in the student that's there already? How is that
Yeah.
directed? How's that molded? How's it
Well,
directed?
I'm raised in a way of Black power at home, right?
Okay.
And so my first teachers were my parents and my oldest brother. I'm
Okay.
also I was a child of the village. So when they say it takes a village to raise the child, I am that
Mhm.
child. So
Okay.
there's not one teacher,
Okay.
but the my brother being 9 years older than me, so where he was in proximity to hip hop practice
Mm.
and independence, right? He could be outside.
Right.
And so when he's coming inside to practice, that's teaching me. He's not sitting me
Mm.
down and saying, do this, do that. He's living his way, and I'm observing. And sometimes he's noticing I'm watching, and he's seeing me try my thing, and he says, "Hey, well, try it like this, do it like this, tie your shoes this way." My cousins were saying, "Well, we tie our shoes this way because in New York, our
Mm.
local our local cultural exchanges happens through the boroughs. So in the Bronx, we rock it like this. In Harlem, they rock it like that. In Queens, like this. So this is an exchange versus a I have authority, tell you, and I know it,
Mm.
right? It's
Yeah.
it's an exchange. It's, well, what do you have? What do I have? What do I see? What do you see? And let's give and go. Let's touch and grow each other. Also, I mean, my dad, he always said it's up to us to see the beauty in everything. And so his demonstration through both, like, questioning, right? It's about the prompts. So in this case, this constant inquiry for us to know deeper than what was presented or what is being presented, for us to um, what is it that we understand and why do we have that understanding. So I was raised in that way of a deeper thinking, to look beyond the surface. And so then the teachers would be those who invited me in the circle to dance, and I don't know their names, right? So I don't have to know who my teacher is, and I don't owe them anything. Right? And so it's not transactional, it's
Right.
transformative. Right?
Mm.
And so those teachers are also the person at the bodega, the landlord, the person that, at the token booth. These are all teachers. The bus driver. Hey, when your report card come out, for if you get an A, I'll give you $1. Right. So he's teaching me the value of being
Right.
a student.
Mm.
So I learned to accept teachers come in many forms. The babies are teachers. The person who lives on the street is a teacher. The teachers were the graffiti art in the subways, as
Right.
well as on the subways that's saying don't do drugs, right? Or the
Mm.
crack is whack from Keith Haring. Those are all teachers. So that it's not, I guess it kind of doesn't add to the ego, but it engages with the being. Now, I have some very specific teachers I can think of.
Yeah.
My kindergarten teacher who knew I was painfully shy, so she let me hold on to her pocket right at
Aw.
recess. It was too much for me to play with the kids at recess, but I enjoyed
Mm.
watching other people play. So I got joy. So she taught me my way of engaging in joy was okay, my way of speaking and not speaking. So
Nice.
I could hold on to her pocket, which
Mm.
meant at recess, she's got to go and manage and take care of the other kids and go to the office. So hold my papers for me, come over here. So as I'm holding on to her pocket, I think I
Mhm.
was learning different ways to engage with students and children in a
Okay.
very way, both by what
Mm.
she was doing with me, but what she was saying to other kids. Probably was one of my earliest first teachings outside the house.
Right.
Then Miss Clark, Carolyn Clark from the Yelverton School. My elementary school was our third grade English teacher,
Okay.
and she nurtured and challenged us with love in a great way. And then as we go on, I had a teacher in arts education would be the person that invited me to the Newark Public School Student Center, which was Tony Baskerville. She was an English teacher and a theater teacher in the city of Newark for 30 years. And when she was the director of the Newark Public School Student Center, she invited me to do my rap lyric writing. I had no idea how to teach rap lyrics writing, and I did not go for the job, right? So this was not what I was planning on doing. And she said, do you know your process as a rap artist? I said, yes. She said, then you teach your process. You
Mm.
break it down, how you go about writing a lyric, how you go about preparing for a show. That's what you teach. And so breaking that down into 15 sessions, that
Mm.
was huge. And then Tony Blackman, I would go to her workshops to learn how to freestyle. And she had Rhyme Like a Girl sessions, all female women who wanted to
Mm.
rap or who were rapping and learning how to do freestyle. And freestyle is the improvisation of rap. And so, in her teaching us how to do it and me gravitating to that, she went from helping me learn to now come teach with me. And
Mm.
so, showing me a lesson plan, showing me a proposal, asking me what I want to teach, what would I offer, bringing me in the classroom to co-teach with her so I could learn. So those were two very intricate arts education bridgers and people who opened the gates for me. Tony Blackman and Tony.
Okay. That's perfect because I want to ask you about the lesson you did with Carol Walker at the I don't remember where the school was, but um, with an ELA teacher. So part of what you're saying is interesting to me because you talk about a very specific culture in terms of New York City and the Bronx, and what you're experiencing there, and then you take that outside to other places, and where's the narrative of my life and my story and my experiences? Where does that fit in other places? How does that fit in other places?
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Moving from the Bronx to New Jersey as a teenager
Mm.
showed me and taught me the hard way that neighbors don't operate in the same cultural ways, right?
Mm.
Because even though at that time people said the Bronx and Newark were so similar, and there's some familiarity, yes. Um, but being that New York and New Jersey was so close together, one would think they were so similar, and they're totally different. Definitely from my young teenage views, but it was just being here for 2.5 years, going to North Carolina had me learn, do not compare a place,
Mm.
find
Mm.
out what a place has with what you like, connect to that, be open to discover some new things, appreciate and enjoy it. And that's where I would say the expansion, and that is in the classroom with me as well. And that becomes a life practice, right? It's not something I
Absolutely.
got, but it's a practice to not compare, but find out what it has. And then
Yes.
and coming back. So I think um, that's how that wind up really helping pay the path.
And to me, that's all about really positivity in an experience, finding that positivity and connection
Hmm.
to create
Hmm.
community in whatever scenario you're within.
Yep, and that's that early lesson from my dad of
Yeah.
it's up to you to find the beauty in everything, right? And so it came from not finding it, right? It came from grappling and not liking New Jersey, and it came from not
Mm.
Right.
liking North Carolina.
Yeah.
But then coming back after college at Johnson C. Smith, as I'm in Brooklyn, and there's an underground hip hop scene which I didn't know there was, but I kept turning down the music industry, looking for an otherwise, right? And I discovered this underground hip hop scene in New York that was amazing because it had culture and it had skill and it was very familiar. It felt like those little girl days. And there was a person, La Lena Gomez, DJ Amore, who worked at Fat Beach, which was a staple for us. And she said, "You don't know this person, Black 45, you don't know Jaja Shakur." And there were people she was naming in New Jersey
Mm.
and I didn't know them. And she said, "Oh, you don't know Verse for Verse," which is our current mayor, Raz Baraka, and other members on his team, Trevor Phillips. They were two of the people, and I'm sure there were more who created this Verse for Verse, this place in Symphony Hall and the Terrace Ballroom, where our culture could get together, practice. They organized it. And so I had no idea about this place that was within walking distance from my home because I was
Mm.
being this typical New Yorker going back and forth to New York, using
Right.
New Jersey as a place to lay. And so she, in a sense, sent me back. And that was to me a teaching of hip hop saying, learn to appreciate and respect where you are, where you
Mm.
are housed. Don't just use a place, but be of service and be of recognition. And so by bringing me into New Jersey, then I fell in love with Newark. And it's interestingly enough, this is where I was teaching hip hop. I was teaching
Wow.
hip hop here in New Jersey first and foremost. And so it's a way that I can say thank you and show respect and learn and now bridge, right? The
I was
Hudson,
just
both
going to
sides
say
of the
that you
Hudson.
took the words out of my mouth. You're bridging that culture and that community across the water, across the,
Hmm.
you know,
Mhm.
And
Right.
now becoming a United States hip hop ambassador, where Tony Blackman was the first before a hip hop embassy program was created. But then when Dr. Mark Katz from UNC Chapel Hill and others got together and they created the next level hip hop diplomacy program, I was on the first team, Team India in 2014. So now the bridge is becoming from America to, in my case, India, or when I went
wow.
to Team Barbados, so now we're bridging, or rather I'm exchanging, because I'm
Right.
not only carrying this, but it already exists there. So I'm back into the exchange. So I see how the cipher continues.
Mm.
That's amazing. Wow.
And
So
that's what the classroom to me is. The classroom is, hey, hip hop is the voice of the youth. How's life for you all? How do you see it? How's it going? What do you have to say about it? What's your experiences? Will you share that with me? And I'll share with you where I'm at now and how I came to this and how I go about writing mine. And I hear some demonstrations about how people do their expression. These are examples, but how do you want to play and jigsaw your own? How do you want to discover your own? So it's not duplicating the teaching. I mean,
Right.
duplicating the practice. It's co-creating a space where one gets to discover, rediscover, reclaim. Because trust me, I went from Shakia to only call me Kia in New Jersey, North Carolina. I did not embrace all of myself. It was in
mm.
coming back. It was in a return that, and then through Purple Haze growth, that wait a minute, I'm not accepting I'm a big booty girl from the Bronx. And so hip hop's, it's like, oh, I'm trying to shy away because of the way I hear the world engage with that. I'm trying to make sure I amplify other parts of me, but I was not okay with the light being on that. And so the practice invites me to bring light to more parts of self
Yeah.
Yeah.
and recognize a dark too, a yin and a
Right.
yang out of this
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I think we need to wrap up here, okay, but just the last thing I want to ask: can you talk about the process? And with what I saw your presentation with Carol Walters, with that classroom, because there was a whole piece of preparation that she did before you got there, and then there
Oh,
were
yes.
specific things that you came with, and I thought it was a great example of an effective arts integration lesson taught by the content teacher in terms of what she prepared, and then you as the artist and what you did.
Yes, thank you so much. Just, came from both of us being really curious about what is art integration and what is not, but how to do it. And can we discover and practice and play together? And and we might fail forward, but we're going for it. And we had both had enough experience within us and enough desire and passion to trust what we had to offer. But we
Okay.
knew not to keep it separate, right? Like, not you teach that thing, I teach that thing. But let's find through lines. Let's find seams. Let's actually erase some seams and see we can blur it up. And so when Carol Walters, the ELA teacher at Seagirt, saw a presentation I did about hip hop, she wanted that for her students. And that was the way she was teaching, anyways, to bring experiences, including the arts, including real life engagement with real people. And so when she invited me, I said, hey, let's go for it. We looked at what our integration principles and standards are. We looked at the art standards in our state. We looked at ELA. And so, in her doing what she does really well and me doing what I do really well, we found, okay, well, here's the similarities, right? And that was really important. If she was doing a unit on and persuasive argument, and so I said, oh well, hip hop engages with power dynamics, right? And so when we're talking about persuasive argument, not only self expression, but we're talking about power. But we saw this as the person has to be empowered to use their voice or take a stand and believe what they believe. And she said, I don't want them to write an essay. They can do that. They've done that. I think we can turn this into rap lyric writing, that they can write, articulate, and express themselves through song. And so she prepared the content, that she was going to do anyway. And then we just saw, where can I insert and teach rap lyrics by using the content? Year one. Year two, we said, you know what? Let's do some of that prep work in advance. And let's get me on a Google Classroom. And so when they're preparing their arguments and I'm seeing the choices of topics they can choose, and I'm
Did we just lose audio?
I think we just lost audio for a moment.
teach rhyme.
Oh, we're back.
We're back. We're back. Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. And
That's
so
okay.
when I saw what they wanted to express, that's a big deal right there. Because if you have your content, you have your point and your purpose and what you really want to say, I teach to not compromise it for the rhyme. Don't just rhyme. You don't need me to come and teach you how to rhyme. You've been learning that since kindergarten. But it's how to say this in this format.
Right.
So different rhyme schemes, which we knew they learned in ELA.
Okay.
Different ways to structure stanzas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I could take the structure of a stanza and say, well, in rap, this is what that's similar to this.
Right.
And whatever you do, still stick to what you have to say. And since she prepped them beforehand by them doing their writing beforehand, we knew what you had to say. We knew what you believed. And you're not going to change that just to make it rhyme. You got to now bend the rhymes, figure out, and then collaborate. Who agrees with you? Who disagrees with you? You don't only have to be on a song with someone that agrees with you, but we had great collaboration because we grouped them based upon topics, not based upon who I want to work with, who I work well with, who will do the work, who I can do the work for. And so because they all had their individual expression, as I said in the cipher, now it's about bringing that individual expression to the collective and having a collaborative presentation by a way of song. And where they would write together would be, okay, you already have your lines. You have this, I use this technique called rhyme boxing, where they have their words and fast ways, just because of what we were dealing with, the element of time.
Yes.
Fast ways to come up with rhyme lines. But now they could rearrange their lines,
right,
and intersect each other.
right.
Right. And so that's what I did as a child. I took Roxanne Shante, MC Light, and my brother's lines, and I rearranged them and changed the words. And so, in a sense, teaching that same process of every line may not be yours, but
Right.
if another person at the table has that point to make and they make that point, put their line in. And then we also open up to ghostwriters. Maybe you're somebody writing, but not going to speak. Maybe you're not going to say it, even though we had 100% of the people say it because of the way they experienced the process of doing this, the way we affirmed each other throughout every day, the way we created community agreements and looked at them and used them every day. So it was a share versus a performance. And it was share where you stand.
Right.
And a part of our way of teaching, which was culturally responsive, is culturally responsive, meaning the culture of youth, right? And so the culture of youth, what does it take to be brave and bold enough to be seen and heard? And that's what I had to engage with as a child to be an MC, a hip hop rap artist. And so inviting them to practice, see what's in the way, support, big up yourself, break through, and be brave and be courageous and say what you believe and stand for it.
So
This has
last
been an
question.
awesome conversation.
Mhm. Do you have time for one thing?
One,
Yes, yes.
real quick. Go ahead.
What motivates you the most to stay in this work? What is that one thing that really you love doing about this?
I discovered myself and my that I got in order. Tony Blackman says, people need to be healthy when they're working with kids. Not
Mm,
everybody should work with kids. And when I heard her say that really early, it made me accountable for doing my healing work before I step in the
mm,
classroom. So in the daily practice of meditation, essential oils, staring at nature for 5 minutes. I love the thing I love about going to a school is I can hear their voices before I enter the school. And so that sound of laughter and talking and looking at them doing their big lives in little ways is very inspiring. And most importantly, my commitment became, and when I got really clear about this, it mattered. My why is because if we live a long life, I think youth is the shortest period. And I want
mm,
young people to enjoy their life when they're young. I think there's a quote, and I forget who, but I learned it through the Dessert Club. They said it's easier to build a child than to repair an adult.
mm.
And I think if we could have young people be young, be youth, and
Yeah.
have fun
Yeah.
and enjoy it and explore it and not know the answers and be okay because they are learning they are not supposed to know. And so if I
Mm,
get to be a young person um, doing that, I got to do that because of my teachers, and I get to be an adult fostering
mm.
those things, knowing that I'm not the answer, but I'm somebody that can hold the water and pour it on the seed, maybe plant a seed, and know that they have seeds that they're planting for me. So they're my teachers. They're my teachers. Young people are my teachers.
Beautiful.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I hope everyone enjoyed this conversation as much as Edric and I did. I'm going to speak for Edric because I know he's been like, if you could see us, we're both, glowing. This was great. Thank you, Purple, for taking some time to talk with us and share your wisdom and your experiences with our listening audience.
You are so welcome. Thank you both for your ideas, your constant creation, your collaboration, and how you are creating a cipher here for us and your stand for arts integration. And thank you for the listeners for our shared time. Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.